So, yeah, I'm sure you've heard that Saturday, Donald Trump signed an order that a lot of products from Canada would get slapped with a 25% tariff, and with, I think, oil and electricity getting a 10% hit, and I think that's like in a couple of weeks. I forget all how this works out, because we're kind of freaking out. There's a lot of upheaval. And a lot of this upheaval is, it strikes me as really, really, really unnecessary. It strikes me as really unnecessary. You can listen to Donald Trump, and he'll tell you, well, we're doing it because of all the fentanyl that comes in from Canada. It's like 1% of the fentanyl in the U.S. comes across the Canadian border. Most of it comes through regular ports of call. It's not being smuggled. It's not being smuggled through the woods on mooseback. All right? It's just not. If you want our help securing the border, sure. We probably should do that. We should probably help secure the border, because in doing so, we can keep all the illegal firearms from coming up into the country. We can keep all the tobacco and alcohol that's coming up into our country, that's avoiding the duty system. All the illegal drugs that are coming up. So yeah, securing our borders a little bit, I think that's probably a pretty good idea. But then he goes, that's not really what it is. What it really is that we've been treated super unfairly. I've been thinking about how he does things. I've been thinking about the executive orders that he offers, his memos of understanding. I've been thinking about how his people have been ransacking through American government departments, federal departments. I've been thinking about how his surrogates have been traveling all over the country demanding answers, as though they matter, as though they have power and not their grand poobah. And it strikes me that it's not just aggressive. It's almost violent. It's aggressive, but it is intrusive. It's aggressive, and it's threatening. And again, I think you could look at how he's approached the tariff situation, and I'm just reading that apparently he's put a pause of a 1 month on tariffs in Mexico, and that he's meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I talked to him this morning, and he's going to be talking to him again this afternoon. So maybe this all goes away, but it doesn't change his method. It doesn't change his methodology. I just watched a video that Belle of the Ranch did, in where she describes how he's threatening to drop tariffs on the European Union because they treat them unfairly, and they do this and they do that, and they won't let this in and they won't let that in. There's a term. There's a term that I've been reading about this morning. It's just a word, and I've been reading through the Bible looking for those places where it comes up. But the word is quarrelsome. Right? A quarrelsome person. A quarrelsome person is someone who they're looking for a fight. They're just looking for the drama. They're looking to make a great big thing out of nothing. They want to be seen. They want to be perceived as someone who is important. And so they complain and they gripe and they go on and they pick fights. And they want to be seen as someone who is tough. And so they continuously talk about how they're being victimized, and then they go after, in whatever capacity they can, the people that they claim to be victimizing. These are people who they want to be seen as strong. And so they use all their resources, and they usually go after friends and family. It's an interesting thing. A quarrelsome person is often much, much, much more quarrelsome with people who are closest to them, with organizations that are close to their heart, the people that they have established and safe relationships with. They want to push the buttons of people who they feel, just won't get up and leave them. Trump ran he ran on the promise of tariffs. He ran on the promise of tariffs, and he ran that tariffs were going to bring down prices and tariffs were going to make people's lives better. That's not how they work. But he also ran. He ran as the anti-war candidate. That was it. We're done with war. We're done with fighting. We're done with strife. We're done with conflict. But since November, we're threatening Panama. If they don't do things different with the canal, if they don't give us a better deal on the canal, we're threatening Panama in some ways. We really want Greenland, and so we're threatening Denmark in some ways. I don't know, maybe it is that he really wants Canada to become the 51st state. I don't think you can handle that many leftist electoral college votes. But anyway, maybe it is. Maybe that's what he wants. He wants Canada to capitulate and to acquiesce and become the 51st state, whatever it may be. But he is threatening our sovereignty, and he's threatening the sovereignty of Mexico with these with this economic warfare. They call it a trade war for a reason. It causes a lot of damage. Now, chances are nobody gets killed because of it. But in these kinds of things, hundreds, thousands of people will lose their jobs, will lose their livelihood. Thousands of people will have to learn how to live a very stressful, anxious life. People who should never have to worry about it. Citizens of our countries will have to worry because of how we respond and how we act and how we behave towards one another. This is a type of violence. This is a type of aggression. This is a type of war, and it's caused by a quarrelsome person. And in the Bible, one thing stands out about quarrelsome people. The Bible calls them a very particular word. Calls them a fool. Proverbs chapter 20. Proverbs chapter 20 says, "It is an honor for a man to keep aloof from strife, but every fool will be quarreling." Only a fool needs the world to think that they're strong. Only a fool needs the world to think that they're brave. Only a fool needs the world to think that they're powerful. The wise don't need the world to think that way about them. The wise know that it's perfectly okay and probably preferential that the world underestimates them, that the world doesn't see them in that true light, that the world sees them as something that they're not, while underneath the surface, they are strong, they are brave, they are bold, they are wise, they are people of action. Galatians tells us, Galatians chapter 5 tells us, "If you bite and devour one another, watch that you are not consumed by one another, because this is the reward. This is the reward of being quarrelsome. You snap at people, you bite at people, you yip at people, you pick fights with people, and you take little bits out of people all this time. Oh yes, see what I'm doing? I can just picture a little yippy dog, just snapping at your heels. Be careful. Be careful that you're not one day consumed by the ones that you keep biting at, by the ones you keep threatening. Be careful one day that you're not absorbed, devoured by the ones you think are weak, or the ones you think you can bully. 2 Timothy tells us, don't be quarrelsome. Paul, to his protege, he says, have nothing to do with foolish, ignorant controversies. You know that they breed quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kind to everyone, able to teach, patiently enduring evil. Now, this talk I'm well aware. I'm well aware that his supporters, those who see him as somehow divinely placed here, well, we weren't looking for a pastor. We're looking for a president. Fine. Well, we weren't looking for a preacher. We were looking for a president. I get it. But you continuously told us what a godly man he is. You continuously tell the world what a godly man he is. And yet, since November 7th, he's done nothing. He has done nothing but try to pick a fight with people. He is quarrelsome. He's demonstrating to us. He's demonstrating to us that he's not a follower. He's demonstrating to us over and over and over again that according to that book, that Bible book we're supposed to be, deeply involved with, well, it tells us the quality of his character based on his behaviors. But there's something else that I want to share with you about this. Because no, I don't just want to pick at him and say, oh, don't you see don't you get it? Like this is the Christian that you claim to be of God, that you claim to be blessed and anointed by God to bring America back to Christ. This is the one. This person who never seems to behave in the way that the Bible might ask us to behave, and never seems to behave in the way that Paul in his epistle tells us to behave, or that Jesus might behave. But I want to do more than that. There's an interesting passage again, it's back to Proverbs. I love Proverbs. It has a lot of really good things to say about how to live a peaceful life. And what it says is Proverbs 21, and I'm rephrasing it a little bit because it's sort of chauvinistic. Proverbs 21:19 says, "It is better to live in a desert land than with a quarrelsome and fretful person." It's better to suffer. It's better to go without than to deal with this, than to deal with a quarrelsome person, than to deal with a person who's always trying to pick a fight, than to deal with a person who's always trying to create drama. It's better to go without and to suffer. It's better to let go of your comforts. It's better to experience pain than it is to live your life in the presence of someone who is always trying to get one over on you, always trying to boost their ego at the expense of the people who are closest to them. It's always best to experience the problem of living in the desert. And you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to struggle for survival. It's going to be hot. It's going to be super cold. All you can just imagine, right? Just allow the metaphor to run wild. What would it look like to live in the desert? Okay, that's preferential than to living your life with a quarrelsome person. Today, here in Canada, many of the premiers and the Prime Minister are stepping up saying, these are the things that we're doing. And it was the Premier Ministre of Quebec who I really appreciated what he had to say. He and I would not even be close on the political spectrum, but I really appreciated what he had to say. He said, this is the time, in this moment right now, this is the time when we should invest in new markets. Basically, we should invest in meeting new friends, building new relationships, finding a new BFF. Because this BFF, it's going to cost too much. And I don't mean money. It's going to cost us in our sanity. He's going to delay, let's say he delays a month, great. And then what? And then we'll wait. And we'll wait, and we'll find ourselves in that kind of situation where we're just waiting for the next shoe to drop. And this is true in life as well. When we find ourselves in the presence of quarrelsome people, it is better to go without than to maintain those relationships. It's better to go without than to try to change them. It's certainly better to go without than having to listen to them and having to deal with them all that time. They're going to cause us emotional pain. They're going to cause us emotional strife. They're going to drag us into the hell of their creation when we don't have any desire to be there. It is better to suffer the pain of the desert than it is to suffer the continuation of a relationship with someone who is always picking a fight, with someone who is always trying to prove themselves or prove how awesome they are to you and to the world through bullying tactics, through aggression, through violence. Suffer the pain of the desert before you suffer the pain of a friend who is quarrelsome, of a partner who is quarrelsome, of a person who is quarrelsome. They don't bring life. They take it. Amen.